I told Tim when I started, if I get going too fast because of the auction background, just let me know. We can try to get through this thing in 15 minutes, but we're not going to do it. We'll get through it together. So appreciate everybody being here. Some of the rules, I guess, we're going to try to stay pretty strict on this. Like Tim said, the questions will be written on note cards by the audience. I do have one to start. And what we're going to do when we get started here, we're going to give the candidates about 3 minutes to kind of shoot from the hip. Tell us what's going on, and as we get into it, we're going to give you about a minute to answer questions. I guess I'm supposed to be the police too, so my internal clock's going to be 1 minute, and then you're going to get gonged out of here. Okay? I'd prefer to donate about 30 to 45 minutes in doing this process, and then we'll have a minute at the end for closing remarks. So that's kind of how we're going to do it. Okay?
Bill, I thought we were supposed to have 2 minutes for opening.
3 minute opening.
3 minute opening.
If you talk real slow, you can go 3, but not a second over, John. Okay? And we'll start this first round with the incumbents. So I'll start with Mr. Stanford and Mr. Jonathan McKay. But this question, then we'll go from there. There's been talk about Wilmington becoming a charter system of city government. Do you favor this? If so, what form and why? We'll start with...
Are we going to do opening statements?
Oh, I'm sorry. Opening statements, yeah. It's been a long day. Opening statements. Jonathan, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Well, good evening. I'm Jonathan McKay, and I'm a lifelong resident here of Clinton County in Wilmington. My parents are Rod and Nancy McKay. They're back in the back. It's like church. Everybody sits back in the back. But I am seeking re-election in the first ward. Can everybody hear me?
Heck yes.
Okay. I am seeking re-election in the first ward. I've spent 4 years on city council. And in those 4 years, Wilmington has changed dramatically. We voted to rezone the entire city. We have seen growth in small businesses, not only in our downtown, but all over Wilmington. We have seen young professionals step up to the plate and help Wilmington grow. The downtown has seen a renaissance of unprecedented expansion, and that is thanks to many, many people. Wilmington passed a tax levy that allowed City Council to do 3 things. Number 1, maintain our police and fire, and we promised a carryover of 25% or more when we budgeted this year, and we did the same for next year. Finally, we on City Council promised to allot money for street paving, and we have done that. All 4 wards have been touched in some way, shape, or form. The first ward saw grinders and pavers roll down Hyatt Avenue, Catherine Drive, Florence Avenue, Leland Park Drive, Lincoln Street, and others. We on City Council were proud to vote for this for the residents of the first ward. Literally, they could see their tax dollars at work. A committee named the City Revitalization Committee took on a new role, and that was to manage the retained hotel lodging tax money. We came up with a system for 501c3 companies and for city projects, and this was to allot money by a scoring system and other details on how governments and nonprofits can apply for these funds. Those are just some of the things that have been voted on in the past 4 years. My other service has come to the community in the form of volunteer board work. I sit on the Tax Levy Incentive Committee, the Wilmington Friends Meeting Board of Trustees. I'm an ex officio member of the Clinton County Regional Planning Commission, a member of the Wilmington College Board of Trustees, where I sit on the Building and Grounds Committee, and I'm vice chair of the Development Committee. Trustee of the Antique Power Club, which is the parent to the Clinton County Corn Festival, the Clinton County Republican Central Committee, the Clinton County Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, the Clinton County Homeless Shelter Board of Directors, the Ohio Dominican University Alumni Council, the Metesic Theater Renovation Committee for Ohio Dominican. I volunteer at the Murphy Theater and for Main Street Wilmington, the Castle Park Playground Fundraising Committee, and I graduated from Leadership Clinton. My city council committees include the City Revitalization, Judiciary, and I'm chair of the Solid Waste. I love Wilmington, and I want to give back to it. This town has embraced me, and I want to thank it by helping it grow and become better than what it once was. This is why I'm running for city council, and this is why I'm asking for your vote of the First Ward residents on May the 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Matt Swindler, please. You're on the clock.
All right, boy. Johnny, you stack ammo, buddy. But I dodge bullets. Thank you all for attending tonight. I'm the new guy. My name's Matthew Swindler. I'm running for First Ward City Council, obviously. I hope I answer any of your questions that you have tonight. If I don't know what I'm talking about, I will not act like I do. I will not Alexandria Cortez this. Yeah, I went there. A little about myself. I'll project a little better. But the Marine Corps taught me better. Lifelong member of Clinton County, Wilmington, born over Clinton Memorial Hospital. Graduate of Wilmington 2004, 2006. Went into the Marine Corps. Went in on the buddy program with a good friend of mine, our hometown hero, Josh Sams. I was in the infantry while I was in. I did 2 combat tours, one in Iraq, one in Afghanistan. I served my 4 years during that time, and I learned to effectively work with the unit, coordinate with others, and efficiently complete whatever task I was given. Meritoriously promoted twice, member of the company level intel cell, appointed company clerk, then training NCO. I know this is going way above some heads. In charge of training and deployability of over 100 Marines at one point. And extremely good at being yelled at with a smile. I was a gunner, a driver, a vehicle commander, an assistant patrol leader. I'm a wizard at Excel, Microsoft Excel. From covering fire to cover letters. I knew it all. I did it all while I was in the Marine Corps. I also kept my uniform pretty sharp. I was proficient. Honorably discharged in 2010. I came home. I started a family, just like I always wanted to. Grew up where my family raised me, and they still reside, and the rest of my family still resides. I'm a father of 3 beautiful girls, whom I'm already fearing getting older. Recent graduate of the Dayton School of Medical Massage. Also recently received my license. And I'm very proud to say that I, starting a couple weeks ago, am a small business owner here in the great town of Wilmington. So very proud of that accomplishment. Why am I here? I've already served my country. Now I want to come home and do my civic duty. This place is more than just a home to me. I love Wilmington. I love the people. And when they're able to come together for benefits like when Josh got hurt and stuff like that, you know, someone that they hardly even know, but putting that money together, it was it showed me a lot about the camaraderie. I want to serve my neighbors in First Ward, and I want to serve everyone else in Wilmington, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Matt. Now we'll start with the candidates for mayor. Our incumbent mayor, John Stanford.
Good evening. I'm Mayor John Stanford. I still have people laugh when they call me mayor because for so many years they called me John. But my favorite is Grandpa. I came to this job as a family man and a businessman. And it's those values learned from hard work and commitment that have shaped my leadership as your mayor. I look back at the last 3 years as your mayor, and I'm gratified by the good work done by the city. We are making headway on the largest residential paving in the city history and look forward to more this construction season and the rebuilding of Rombach Avenue next year. Like all of our projects, they are properly engineered, inspected to avoid mistakes like those made on David's Drive many years ago. As I promised you during my campaign 4 years ago, we are enforcing existing property maintenance code for the first time in decades. Lawns that have never been mowed are being mowed. trash that has never been picked up is being picked up. Houses are finally being repaired or torn down, especially the correct ones. It can be slow at times, but for decades of no movement, at least we're moving. We're doing aggressive maintenance on city-owned utilities and property, including rebuilding the improperly installed salt sheds, replacement of antiquated controls in the city's sewage treatment plant, replacement of key components with our water system due to years of deferred maintenance by previous administrations. Removal and replacement of dead trees from the cemetery and other areas of the city. Don't know if you noticed, Bill, on Main Street, we just took down 3 large maples. Repair of long ignored water damage to the city building. Completion of culvert project on North Mulberry Street. Replacement of worn out police and EMS vehicles. In my work for the city, I'm wonderfully blessed to have the support of my wife, Nancy, whose encouragement, enthusiasm, and love for this town matches my own. There are some who suggest that by spending a few weeks in Florida every winter with Nancy illustrates a half-hearted commitment to serving as your mayor. It's rubbish. My commitment to my family and to effective, honest administration of our fair city are entirely compatible. 3 years ago, I was elected to help lead this city. We are doing so every day. We are making good decisions, watching carefully how the taxpayers' money is invested, and doing so with the help of our great city employees and many caring residents who strive to make this town worthy of its great heritage. I'm asking for your support in this campaign and for your vote on May 7th.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Folks, if you have any questions that need to be asked, please come up and see Mr. Inwood and Mr. Habermill right here. We got note cards. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce Larry Rhinesmith, who's running for mayor. Larry?
Yes, thanks. Larry Rhinesmith, running for mayor. Just a little bit about my background. I'm a lifelong resident of Wilmington, Ohio. I graduated from Wilmington High School in 1970, and just a little side note, 1970 was the last year that the Wilmington High School won the SCOL and won the gold football, so just a little bit of hint. While there, I met my wife of 43 years, Susan Scheideker, and we had 2 daughters, Kelly, who graduated from Wilmington College, and Jennifer, who graduated from Wright State University. After I got out of high school, I immediately joined the Air Force Reserves. I was in the Civil Engineering Squadron. I served 20 years there. I retired as a Chief Master Sergeant. I then started my, hands fell.
Happens at best.
That's a new belt, and I told her that it doesn't. And here I am. I'm always showing my ass. So, that's all I can say. So I started my 30 years of public service, first as a councilman of the 1st Ward. And during that 6-year term, that's when we decided to build a new city hall and tear down all these buildings. The next 24 years, I served under Mayor Nick Evelyn, Mayor David Risk, Mayor Randy Riley as a building inspector, building official, and the final 20 years as Director of Public Service. During those years, we accomplished so much. We constructed a new water plant. We built a new transit facility. We built 2 new water towers. We built Lowe's Drive, David's Drive. We created 6 new subdivisions, which created nearly 600 building lots. It was during that time that we also acquired and annexed the Wilmington Air Park. And we worked with the county and ODOT to get the State Route 73 bypass constructed. During those 30 years, I worked alongside with all 3 mayors, sometimes filling in for them and handling many of their problems. I have no reservations about my qualifications for taking on the job of mayor. But a lot of people ask me, why in the world would you want to do a job like that now and run a good retirement? And there's a lot of things I thought about, but I just want to look back like in the last 5 or 6 weeks. You know, on January 12th, the city had a record snowfall of 9.2 inches. We had no road salt because the street department failed to order it, and we had to borrow it from ODOT. The next weekend, on January 19th, the city had another snowfall, 4.5 inches. Still no road salt, and we had to borrow from the county. On January 28th, we experienced a polar vortex. That's an emergency in itself. Wind chills reaching minus 35 degrees. On the weekend of March 15th, wind storms causing lots of damage and outages, and we wake up the next morning with no power, not just in the city, but the whole county. We've got a depleted police force running around trying to control 40 intersections with signals. On top of that, we lost our dispatch, and we had to transfer everything over to the county. And you know, like in the military, when all this kind of stuff happens and you lose your dispatch, it's kind of like they blew up your headquarters.
10 seconds, Larry.
Okay, each of these events would be a great time for city leadership to shine. Problem is, our leadership, the mayor, was in Florida for all of these events. This is the main reason I'm running. Wilmington needs a mayor that will be here in major emergencies or just to meet with a citizen to discuss simple problems. I hope to be able to expand on many other issues this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Folks, a little reminder, we do have cards up here if you have questions. Don't force me to shoot from the hip because I'll ask questions that don't pertain to anything. But, and I do want to remind the candidates, please use your microphone if you get a chance because this will be on the Wilmington News Journal. And I know the guys are back there looking at me like, I'm talking too loud in it. You guys aren't talking into it, so let's try to do it right, okay?
You need to cut that out in 1 second.
We're going to go right down the gauntlet here, and we're going to start with the incumbents. Jonathan, you can start this, and then Mr. Mayor, and then Matt, and then Larry. We'll kind of go in that order. There's been talk about Wilmington becoming a charter system of city government. Do you favor this? If so, what form and why? Jonathan, 1 minute.
Thank you. Okay. The charter government has been tossed around in Wilmington for years and years. It got put on the ballot in 1978. It came around again in about 1984, and then later on in about 96. It is being talked about only. There's a major misconception here. There's concept and content. We just have a concept of it right now. And that is, we have authorized Brian Shadaker, our Service and Safety Director, to see what it would take to do it. I don't know if it fits Wilmington or not. We don't know yet because we don't know what's going to be in it. We don't even know what it's going to cost. And we're not going to shuck out a bunch of money in lieu of paving streets for a charter government if it doesn't make sense for Wilmington. That is called good fiscal responsibility and good government. So for right now, it's just in a concept form, and that's where we're at, and we're waiting to hear back what the lawyers say and how this is going to proceed. So it's a long way down the road.
Okay, 1 minute. Thank you, Jonathan. Mr. Mayor? Same question.
Well, charter governments are where our city would write its own rules. We are right now a statutory city. Oh, you want me to hold this thing? I'll let you tell me not to hold this, Charlie. You want it both ways. Now you made me lose my train of thought. Anyway, we are a statutory city, which means we have to follow the statutes of the state of Ohio. The idea with a charter city is that you have better control locally of what your rules are or what your laws are. But we don't know if it's the best thing for our community or not. And that's why we're going to research it, look into it, and see what the best way to go. I'm absolutely with Jonathan. I'd rather spend $700,000 paving streets than a research on charter government. And I made that number up. I know Ryan is not spending $700,000 on researching this.
10 seconds.
I'm done.
Thank you. Matt?
Honestly, this is one of those questions that hasn't come across my table yet. I've heard it brought up at a couple meetings and council members that I've talked to, but I'm really not sure what's in store for a charter city compared to where we're at. But it sounds like putting a good research in before we jump the gun on anything would be the smart thing to do. The only thing I took from it, which could be completely false, the way I heard it was it kind of takes some of the decision making away from the citizens, some of the voting, perhaps. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, then that's something that, you know, I don't think anyone's going to enjoy other people speaking for them, even though you're voting for us to speak for you right now. Certain things need to be on the ballot. Certain things need to come up before anyone makes a decision, at least on a small level.
10 seconds.
This city needs to come together and make decisions.
Thank you, Matt. Larry?
Yeah, you know, I think about charter government, and, you know, this city has operated really well for over 200 years, and we've never needed charter government. You know, there's various forms of charter government. A lot of times they have a weak mayor system, and they usually end up with a city manager that runs the real show. And I think we kind of have that right now, a weak mayor and someone trying to be a city manager. It costs a lot of money to do this program, and you'll take it to the voters twice, and you may not get it. I would never be in favor of charter government. And I tell you the truth, I know a lot of Democrats would like it because they can do a lot of nonpartisan things, but truthfully, I don't know why the Republicans, as strong as they are in this town and this county, would really want to relinquish that power. Thank you.
Thank you.
All my 10 seconds that I have left over. The citizens will decide if the city goes to a charter government. This is not something the mayor decides, not something council decides. The citizens have to vote on it.
Okay, thank you. We're going to reverse the order this time. We'll start with Larry this time. We're on a roll. Please address what is going on with the Wilmington Police Department and what do we do to fix it?
I don't know. I'm like everybody else. No one knows anything about the police department. Everything's a secret. We keep losing people. They keep firing people and laying them off and accepting resignations, but no one knows what's going on. I know they posted an event the other day that it looked pretty bad, but I think if most people I talked to that watched that video really didn't feel it was that bad. I think they felt like the police did the proper thing. However, you know, I think back, and if you were ever in the military and you work for a general, or if you work for a mayor, the one thing that they always drove home to you is, I don't want to come to work tomorrow and find 60 minutes on my front step, and or the I-team. And you know, that's got to be what's happening here, except this happened in August. And Mayor Stanford reported in the paper the other day that we weren't made aware of this until January. What happened for 5 months if this event was that bad? You know, the bad thing about losing Officer Pop, that was one thing. But we lost K9 Carson.
10 seconds.
And, you know, that dog had 2 or 3 good years left with the city, and we lost a valuable asset to the police department. Thank you.
Matt Swindler.
Like Larry said, I don't know any more than what's in the paper. And the water cooler talk, the scuttlebutt, whatever you want to call it, just rumors. But it sounds to me like, you know, what happened was bad, if it did. Internal investigations is taking care of things. It's not our place to do anything right now, or say point fingers right now. There are professionals out there that are taking care of this. Doesn't matter when it happened. We found out it happened. It happens all too often, And I personally am a huge backer of the boys in blue, but there's definitely cases out there where people go too far.
10 seconds.
With their power. I hope that this is not one of those instances, but time will tell, and the correct people will find out those answers.
Thank you. John Stanforth?
To start with, Officer Pop resigned. He was not fired. And Carson was at the end of his career. I would like to have seen him going on for many more years, but they have a limited time that they're allowed to be a drug dog. And his time, thank goodness that he got to stay with Jerry, and they didn't have to be sold or whatever, but that's the blessing of it. I cannot really say a lot about the police department because there are ongoing investigations that I cannot comment on at this time. We have had some resignations.
10 seconds.
But I want to emphasize, the officers we have right now are outstanding, doing an outstanding job, and I'm extremely proud of them.
Thank you. Jonathan?
Well, as everybody said, we all know that there's an ongoing investigation right now. Administration's handling it. City Council has had very little to do with it because it is not part of our legislative duties to perform investigations. However, we need to support our police department. And I, for one, am doing that. Everybody calls and asks me, what's going on? How are things going? I said, I cannot comment on that because of the investigations. However, I say we have a fantastic police department. Dwayne Wayne was a fine man and is a good man. And he...
Ten seconds.
And he took care of his department. He was a mentor to many in this building and beyond. And he deserves a lot of credit for what has happened in this city. Murders have been solved in less than 48 hours, and so on and so forth.
I'm sorry, Jonathan, you're out of time.
Well, that's no good.
I know. I'm sorry. The enforcer. This question is for the candidates for mayor. And we'll start with John. Has the city recently been unable to salt the streets when needed?
Have we, Brian? Have we ever been salting the streets? Have we been out of salt this year? I don't know where you got that rumor, Larry, but I was at the salt shed when we got all of our fall delivery. And I don't know how many tons was in that thing, 400 or so. I really don't know. But salt was not an issue this year at all. But just, I don't know where you got it. We were not out of salt, I can tell you that. I don't know why your street wasn't salted. I don't. I know we have a schedule that we follow, that we have to do main quarters first. We have to do dangerous intersections next,
10
and
seconds.
then we get to the residential streets.
Okay, thank you, John. Larry?
I don't know where the mayor's getting that idea. I'm curious about salt, and every year we always made sure we had salt. But for the last 2 years, on about the same day, I went up to the salt barn, took pictures. In fact, I posted them on Facebook. That barn was empty. You couldn't put, there wasn't enough salt in there to put on your French fries. And, you know, and we talked to people from Odnr, and they told us, yeah, they forgot to order salt. County, same thing. You know, when you don't have salt, and you do borrow it for a big event, but you don't get that little treatment. You know, those mornings when you have that black ice, and you got hills that you can't go up because of ice, you normally go out and salt those. That doesn't happen because they say, we have no salt. I noticed this year there was no pre-treatment before any events. You know, that's when they mix the brine with salt and they go out and hit the highways and everybody in the world's doing it, but not the city of Wilmington. So I think we got a little problem here. You build a nice salt barn, But you need to put salt in it, John.
10 seconds.
I'm done.
He's done. Okay, this question is for all the candidates. And we're going to mix it up and we're going to start clear down to the left with Jonathan. What was the outcome of your recent meeting on transportation? 1 minute.
The recent meeting on transportation, it's still an ongoing thing. The transportation in this community is absolutely outstanding. We have a great cab department. He seeks out grants. He does everything he can do to keep our cab service up and running. And we allot a lot of money towards this. The only thing that is the major complaint that I get is we don't go out far enough and the hours need to be switched up a little bit. But I allot, well, I don't, but city council does, and I'm part of that. We allot money every single year in the budget for the taxi department, and they submit their budget, and then it is reviewed, and then it is voted upon. Very little change was done this year with the cab department as far as that goes. But as far as the transportation study, it is an ongoing thing. Taylor Stuckert, who's back there in the back, his office is taking part of that. And so it's still in the community stages. But I would love to see transportation expanded. I think it is a very, very big need. And as time goes on, it's going to become a bigger need. So,
okay, thank you, Jonathan.
Well, you're strict.
Hey,
man, this is like a presidential debate.
I haven't ate yet.
I haven't either.
But thank you. Matt?
Transportation. Filled up my tank yesterday and changed my oil. There's what I know about transportation for the most part. But no, while I worked over at Dreher Physical Therapy, we had many elderly people and mobilely disabled people at the time needing transportation. They were really good about picking up the phone on time, saying that they were going to be there. I think I can echo what Jonathan just said and expand it a little bit. About the only problem was wait time, more or less. Sometimes get a little backed up. Just maybe expanding it. That's all I've got to say about that.
Okay. John? You in? Yep. 1 minute.
This town is so blessed to have that transportation system. I'll use my sister as an example. She has health issues, and she can no longer drive a car. And she come up here from eastern Tennessee because of our transportation system. She can go to doctor's appointments. She can go to church. She can go to the grocery store. And all of these for $1 for a senior citizen. And it is such a blessing to have that. And Tony Morris has just done an outstanding job of running that department. He is able to get grants that have enabled us to continue the service hours. But keep in mind, the majority of the funding for our transportation department is from the state of Ohio. So we are very thankful. And when you see Shane Wilkin or Senator Portman or Senator, Peterson, make sure you thank them for what they do for our community and keep that funding stream coming to our community.
Thank you, John. Larry?
For years, I worked with the taxi facility, and it was a great facility. We built a new building, and we got plenty of grants, plenty of cars. We had a great director down there, Phil Floyd, and I know, John, as soon as you came in, you fired him for no reason, and that really hurt me. And but then you limited the hours, you cut them back, and I've talked to a lot of people that were using that taxi to go to work and come home, and they've had to quit jobs. And it just seems like with the additional jobs going out to Amazon and the airport, there's a lot of people that use that taxi to go to and from the work. And if I become mayor, we will extend hours and make that work. And another thing, I know that you got a $200,000 grant for your automated dispatch, and you used it a day and a half, and they went down and unplugged it. So thanks ODOT for $200,000 wasted. Thank you.
That's time. And this question is for all. We're going to start on this end with Larry. This is for all. How will you overcome the challenges of city politics while leading the citizens into the next decade of city issues?
I'm a nice guy, and let me tell you that. And I worked for Bob Moyer, the first mayor, and then I worked for 2 Republicans and a Democrat. And you know, I treated everybody the same. They weren't Republican, Democrat when they come into my office. I did what I could to help them out, and I helped a lot of people in 30 years. Trust me. And I talked to the employees today. I talked to the supervisors. The employees, they say they won't talk to City Hall. I talked to the supervisors. They won't go to City Hall. And I talked to all the superintendents. They stay out of City Hall. I know one day I met the police chief, and I said, "Chief, how's it going?" He goes, "It's going all right." And I said, "What about upstairs?" He goes, "Mayor's never there, and I won't talk to Miriam." And so, and you know, then I talked to the fire department, and I got the same. I go, "How can you have a team like this when no one will talk to each other?" I said, "You know, before everybody was always friendly, and I just don't know what has happened in the last 3 years, but it's not good, and I'm here to turn it around." Thank you.
John, do you want me to repeat the question, or I can repeat the question if you like?
Politics in city government, shocking. It's shocking that there's politics involved. But the politics locally are not the issues that you deal with on the national level. We have several Democrats on our city council, and they do a good job because we work together on the issues that are really important to the city. Fiscal responsibility. We look at every dime of the taxpayers' money and how we're spending it, and we're spending it efficiently. We maintain the safety services. We keep our carryover in line. And I don't know where Larry gets his information about the dissension between our department heads. I'm very, very proud of the team of people that I have put together.
10 seconds.
And they are outstanding people. I go to departments myself. They don't need to come to me. I stop by most of them at least twice a month. And I'm very proud of them. I am.
Thank you. Matt? How will you overcome the challenges of city politics while leading the citizens into the next decade of city issues?
Well, I'd like to be upfront and forward with everyone. I want if there's something going on, I want my finger in the pot with it. I want to know what's going on, when things are going on, whatever the issue may be. While I was in the Marine Corps, I played liaison between 30 different battalions, companies, or platoons at a time, and made things work. Happened to coordinate with a lot of other people as far as making things better going into the future. Wrote down a laundry list of things I thought, we'll see what we get through here. I'd like to watch small businesses thrive, help find venues and way to utilize them, from a local baker, contractors, restaurants, keep the money local. We need to continue to work closely with Main Street Wilmington, Rotary, and the board of the Murphy.
10 seconds.
Bring in out-of-town guests, out-of-town money, and keep that money here in Wilmington.
Thank you. Jonathan?
When I first came on city council, I became chair of the retained hotel lodging tax and/or city revitalization. I had 2 Democrats that served on this committee with me, and I was the lone duck Republican. One of them was Tyler Williams. The other one was Michael Albright. We came up with a brand new system, a brand new theory on city government. and what to do with these monies. We worked together. We worked well together in our committee meetings, and together we came up with this process. There was a lot of give and take. It was functional government. It's amazing how it worked, and that's something to be very proud of. So for City Council, politics has been finally put aside. We had a very, very staunch, this is how it is, City Council. And there were others on City Council, this is how it is. And there was a lot of back and forth. There's not so much back and forth in this City Council, but there's more give and take. And that's why we have been able to overcome so much and get so much done for this wonderful city that we have. And so that's something that, you know, politics really doesn't enter into it anymore, because we're all for the city, and the city does not need any politics.
I'm sorry, Jonathan,
we need stuff to get
that is
done.
fine. But you can remain standing because we're going to come back this way.
Okay.
All right? What are your thoughts on city officials retiring and then coming back? In essence, double dipping.
It's legal.
1 minute.
It's a legal thing. And you know what? If they want to do it and they're good at their job, Harry McVeigh has been here, I swear, since the city's founding. And Nick, you were with him. I mean, he's been here forever. The city was built around Harry McVeigh. And he, when we lose, and he is probably our longest serving. And so when he retires, I want him to come back, because we need him. We need his expertise. We need people like that not only I can go to with questions, but he can help the city. Now, is he taking advantage of things, or she? Yeah. But if they're a good employee
10 seconds.
and they've done well, I don't see how it hurts.
Thank you, Jonathan. Matt?
I can't say many things different than what Jonathan just said. You know, if someone's doing their job correctly, it is legal to sit there, retire, come back in, double dipping. Sure, you want to see new faces, you want to bring new people in, you want to see new ideas, but until it's illegal, it's legal, and there's not much you can do about it besides for try to force people out. And I don't think that's fair. If you know your job, you're good at it, stick with it.
10 seconds.
I really don't have an issue with it. It's the law. Employees are allowed to do it. We lose a lot of institutional knowledge when those people step away. There are some cost savings involved when someone does retire and then rehire. They don't make the same salary that they had before. So no, I just don't have an issue with it.
Thank you. Larry?
I have a little different feeling about it. I was one of those that did do that. I volunteered to retire. I worked under Mayor Risk at the time, and I was eligible to retire, and the mayor wanted to supplement the fire department. He wanted to hire 13 auxiliary fire department people. And I told Davey, I volunteered, said, listen, I'll retire and rehire. And it was going to save almost $40,000 a year. And of course, I worked for a Democrat then. And it wasn't the same thing. He cut a tough deal for me. I didn't come back, and he cut my salary way down. He said, this is what it is. And part of the deal was I didn't get another raise. And then on top of that, council didn't give him the fire department. I mean, so, but it's really supposed to help save money if it's done right. Thank you.
Thank you. This is for the mayor candidates. To John, if elected, will you do everything in your power to serve your entire term as mayor?
As long as I don't die.
I've got a business card if you need it. So.
Now, now wait a minute. Now wait a minute. All right, Bill. All right, Bill. Here we go. Do you give senior citizen discount?
For you, yeah.
Well, if I don't take advantage of it right away, I still want my discount.
I'm sorry, I got you off kilter. If elected, will you do everything in your power to serve the entire term as mayor?
Absolutely.
Larry?
I'm in it to win it. And, you know, I plan on being here a long time. And I'm kind of feeling like Trump. I'm already getting signs made for 2024.
Good man. All right, thank you. For all four candidates, this time we're going to start with Larry and we're going to move on down the table. Street paving has been nice, but now they're being torn up. Will they be repaved? Meaning the streets.
They took it the easy way out, and they hired an engineering company, and they said, go ahead and engineer that north quadrant. And they paved a lot of streets. But there were a lot of other streets that really needed it. You know, if I were the Stuckert family, I would raise holy hell about South Walnut Street. That is the worst street in the world. And it's been like that for years. And I think that you got to prioritize and hit some of those streets and not stay with that schedule. But, you know, right now with the tax money, they've got a lot of money to hit those streets. The one problem I did have was that they let them do all those streets, and then they let Miller Pipeline come in and dig half of them back up. They made repairs on those streets in the wintertime on sub-zero freezing weather. Those patches will not last. They'll sink. The concrete they poured will not last. It'll crumble. And in 2 or 3 years, that company's gone, and we'll be writing letters to these property owners saying, you got to fix your sidewalk now. And they should have never permitted that pipeline company to work after November. They should have said, come back. It's your streets, and you issue those permits to do that work. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
The reason we're not on Walnut Street is because Vectren is changing all the gas lines in Wilmington, and they are working their way around the city, and we are following them in our paving projects. And some repairs have to be done in the wintertime, and we know that probably that's going to settle, and we will go into spring. We will pull the cold patch out. We'll pull the 57s out. We'll fill the hole full of flowable fill, and then we'll put the hot mix in it. I wish water lines didn't break under new pavement, but it's a fact of life that you have to deal with.
10 seconds.
I'm done.
Okay, thanks, John. Matt?
I haven't worked for the highway department since 2009, I believe. And at that time, I was just weed eating guardrails. So I can't tell you much about filling in the holes. I can tell you what I've read in the newspaper following Mayor John Stanforth's online social media thing. And same thing he said right there, that Vectren had to come back in, tear up what they put down, and we're going to fix it. It's simple as that. It's just going to take some time, but it's not going to be left unfixed. We won't allow that.
Thanks, Matt. Jonathan?
Miller Pipeline is redoing all the gas lines. And in First Ward, they came through, did it paved. Well, we didn't know about another gas company coming in. I called the mayor's office. Mayor's office said, I don't know. And we didn't know about this. So, you know, brand new pavement did get tore up, but they repaved back over it. On Bertzel Street, up the way a little bit, and still in First, there was a water main break during the hard freeze. Things like that cannot be helped. But Brian Shadaker has worked with Miller Pipeline, and we are trying to stay. They're ahead of us, and we're coming in behind, and we're doing the very best that we can do with that. Here again, we didn't know about the other pipeline company. There's 3 gas companies, Brian, or there's 5? 3. And so, you know, they can come in at any time, and we just don't know about it. We know about the one. They come in. We try to stay ahead. So that's kind of where all this is at. I've done a lot of research because First Ward received a heck of a lot of paving, and I didn't want to see those streets get torn up. Unfortunately, it did happen, but not to our knowledge of a gas company, and of course the water main break that happened during the hard freeze on Bertzel Street.
It's time. Thanks, Jonathan. We're going to come right back with Jonathan and work this into the table. With the growth in Wilmington, why are we not getting any new restaurants? What is council doing in the approval process?
If you want to open a restaurant, please do it. Crystals, we're still waiting on them. I'm on the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, and we actively seek every single day new businesses to come to the city of Wilmington, Ohio. Restaurants, it doesn't make any difference what it is, retail, whatever. And we need three things in this community. Number one, more places to eat. Number two, we need housing. We need condos. We need all this stuff to happen. Taylor Stuckert is working diligently on that with Clinton County Regional Planning Commission. I know. And the restaurants, I don't know anything about the restaurant business, but if somebody wants to open a restaurant, I am not going to stand in their way of doing it because we need it. I will help with the Chamber of Commerce. I will help with Main Street Wilmington. I will help do whatever it takes to do it because it is important that we have these restaurants and we have things for people to do. So I'm in favor of it, and I will do whatever I can as a city councilman, as will our other city council members. They will help do whatever it takes to help business succeed in this community.
Thank you, Jonathan. Matt?
I'll be frank, we can blame obese America. Everyone going to go to a 99-cent menu, any of the fast food chains. Why go across the street over to our fine Mexican restaurant or over to the General Denver and throw down $25 for a hell of a steak, but I can go get chicken nuggets for 99 cents. Again, next to that, working with council, making sure whatever restaurants or new businesses that do want to come in. Like I said before, working with Main Street Wilmington, Rotary, the board at the Murphy, bringing outside money in, outside, having events, getting tourism back in here, and then getting them into the restaurants. You'll see the money made then.
Thank you. John?
Well, what you're really talking about is economic development. And I'm very proud that there's been real coordination to hire an economic development person whose sole job is economic development. And that's a partnership with the county, with the city, with CIC, with the Visitors Bureau, and somebody I've forgotten. Port Authority. Thank you. No, Chamber's not in it. Yes, right. And now we have various people that do economic development, but on a part-time basis. But now we're going to have one person who this is their job every single day. Look at new businesses and encourage them to come to this community. And also, we are going to have a new restaurant in the downtown area. I have an inside scoop that he's going to be open. Tin Cap is going to be open in April, and we welcome him with open arms. That's a shameless plug for Jason.
Larry?
Here's another thought. This town is really small, and I know you hate to think about that, but the main man is the mayor, and he's the face of Wilmington, and John probably doesn't understand this, but all winter long, that's when you meet with engineers and architects that are coming through your town that want to talk about your city, that want to get plans approved, you know, get them through planning commission, get the building permits done so they can break ground in the spring. And when you're not there, they're going on through this town. You are the face, and yeah, you can hire these other people, but you're the man that's selling this city. Who knows better about this city than you? And also, I've opened 2 or 3 restaurants. I guess I could open another one.
Right back at you, Larry. This is for the mayor candidates. If elected, what is your plan for office hours and performance of your duties?
I'll be here to get the job done. The one thing that's really bothered me, I call up here a lot, and I get the answering machines for every office. Or you come up here and there's a sticky note on this office and say, go over and see this office. You know, I call this the Ghost Town City Hall. You know, if I become mayor, and Nick always told us this, you're going to get a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. And, you know, those people in City Hall are going to be there for 8 hours. And, you know, I said, if that one person, that he wants to take the effort to get in his car and come up to City Hall and go through those doors downstairs, that door's open upstairs to talk to you and solve your problem. And for them to come up here and see notes on the door and people out, you know, people out there planting flowers when they should be working in the mayor's office, that's not how it's going to be. We're going to be there to serve you, all my staff. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
I got the tax increase. I promised everybody the last thing I would do would be hire additional staff. I'm not going to hire an assistant to an assistant just so an office is always manned. We have real cooperation in City Hall. If the HR department is closed for lunch, the mayor's office covers. If we're gone for lunch, the HR covers for us, or the service director's office. So there's always somebody up there to man when the public comes in. This is the poorest paying job I've ever had in my life. If you look at the hours you put in and the pay you get, we sure don't do it for the money, do we, Nick?
10 seconds.
But I also didn't pound every nail when I had my business. I had qualified staff that did that, and I have very qualified staff.
Thank you. John, go ahead and keep the mic. We're going to start with you this time. This is for all of you. We'll go with the mayor candidates, and then we'll go to the first ward candidates. How will you manage the growth of city services and city infrastructure as the air park expansion impacts the community?
If you're talking about Amazon, I am very apprehensive about that organization. That is a 5-year commitment that they have made. Now, don't get me wrong, I hope to goodness that they stay. But I'm not going to spend a lot of money on a 5-year commitment. We're just not going to do it. We are upgrading the water plant right now. Our sewage treatment plant is long in the tooth, and it is going to have to be replaced sooner rather than later. The other departments are really in pretty good shape to handle growth.
Thank you. Larry?
The one concern I have is that we have no residential growth. You know, when I was with the city, service director and all those, we normally had an inventory of probably 30 to 40 building lots every year that people could choose from. And then when the balloon went up and everything went to hell, we lost all those good craftsmen, and we've lost all the building lots. People want to buy new homes, and you know, jobs coming to town, they want new homes. People live in the city, they want to upgrade. The problem is they're going outside the city and they're buying in the county where there's new homes, and a lot of times they're leaving that house in this town as a rental property, and next thing you know, you got a piece of crap down there, you know, where that becomes a rental property. So you got to get more proactive in getting these subdivisions constructed and get some building lots in here to get them going. I think the industrial commercial will follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan?
Okay. First off, the air park is just not made up of Amazon. It is a living, breathing machine. There might be a business that opens out there that has 25 employees or 35 employees or this or that. It's not all of the eggs in one basket anymore. That in turn gives us revenue for, say that, you know, we're not doing things like that. We are, because as tax revenue grows, we are able to expand city services, and that's exactly what's happening. The domino effect is happening, which is a great thing for this community.
Thank you, Jonathan. Matt?
Problem with being on the bottom of the tier is everyone says exactly what you want to say right before you get to say it. Because I was going to say all that stuff right there. No, Jonathan hit the nail right on the head with that. I feel like getting the air park maintained, keeping someone in there, keeping whatever companies in there are happy, keeping them around, that brings in the extra revenue. That starts having people go to the restaurants. That it starts people needing to use the transportation. That's how this city will grow. I've always felt like the air park was, I mean, I think everyone knows, it's monumental. It is a cornerstone of Wilmington. It always has been ever since it was an Air Force base. You know, without trying to keep the right people in there and keep jobs going and growing, there's no other way to make Wilmington grow. So, yeah, I've watched it go from airborne to DHL to Amazon now, and it's always sad to see them leave. And when a lot of friends and family were giving up on Wilmington, I said, no, the air park is too important. It's too big. Someone will get in there. Things will pick up in Wilmington again. They will pick up in Wilmington again.
Thank you, Matt. This question is for all the candidates. We're going to start right here with Larry. Will you support another extension of the 0.5% earnings tax that currently hold the earnings at 1.5%, or will you move to make the last increase permanent?
I don't know. I know that when they passed that, it was just for 5 years. And I know they said most of it was going to be concentrated on paving and I think maybe the police department. But I know when John ran, he said we're not going to have any new taxes and new rate increases. Well, you know, he's raised water and he's raised waste rates. I know he's going to raise wastewater, and he's going to have to raise landfill rates again. You know, people can only stand so much of these increases, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you're going to get the support out of the public for another half percent. It's going to take a lot of sales on the part of council and the rest of the elected officials to get it done. But you know, my water bill is really starting to get pretty high. It used to be pretty low, and you know, if you look at the Oakwood report, which reports all the utilities in the state, we're right at the top for the cost of water. Seconds. And who wants to be at the top for something like that? And how do you recruit businesses to come to your city by saying, we got the most expensive water here, and we just raised your earnings tax a half point? So,
okay, thank you. John?
What was the question?
Will you support another extension of % earnings tax?
0.5% earning tax.
Yep.
That's up to the citizens. And the reason I went for a 5-year temporary, I wanted to show the citizens what we could do with the money. If they approve what we've done with the money, they'll vote for a renewal of it. So I'm leaving that up to the voters. But I will say, as far as the fees are concerned, most of those we have very little control over. When the EPA comes in and says you will treat stormwater to this standard, we don't have a choice about that. We have to meet EPA standards. When your water department is deteriorating because of its age, you have to spend money to keep it updated. And I will say this, Brian Shadaker, through his diligent effort, we're going to have a sit-down meeting with the Corps of Engineers and address the overcharges of the Cedars Creek project. And also, for the first time in decades, Western Water returns our phone calls. Congratulations, Brian. Good job.
Thank you. Matt?
Last time I checked, water's pretty important. In the service, we'd say hydrate or die. and that's about as correct as it comes. Everyone works, well, most people work, and they scrounge and they save and they put in extra hours to get every penny they can earn with an honest day's work. Asking for 0.5% of that, it seems like nothing, but you got to remember, again, this is a community. Wilmington needs to come together, and you think about everyone else, and it shouldn't be that hard of a decision. Just like when it comes to school levies. I know that's another issue, but when it comes to water, it's pretty dang important. And I don't think that's asking too much for us to act like a community and come together.
Thank you, Matt. Jonathan?
The tax has 2 years left to go. We continue on city council to be very diligent about that money. Street paving, we had a 31.85% carryover in our budget. We budgeted for 25%. We met our goal and then some on city council because of diligent work on the part of our auditor's office and helping us, guiding us, the administration, and of course city council just not approving everything that came down the pike. We're also taking care of our safety services. We bought an ambulance with this money. So in 3 years, we've done a lot with these funds, and we continue to work with them. If the voters approve it, and I hope they would if city council decides to send it to the voters, we have no power to levy taxes. If you want to levy taxes, talk to the commissioners. But we do not have that power. Everything has to go to the voters. I would hope that the voters would say, if we sent it, hey, they're doing everything that they said they were going to do and then some. So I would hope it would pass and we can continue doing the great work that we're doing right now. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. But it's literally up to the people to decide if the tax is good or bad.
Okay, Jonathan. Remain. We're going to come back from that way.
Okay.
What are your short-term goals for the city? And if elected, what is your plan to accomplish these goals?
Short-term goals would be we're getting ready to completely redo our red carpet in our city, and that's Rombach Avenue. There are a plethora of different options that are going on, from street lighting to paving the whole thing to putting in crosswalks to everything. That's a short-term thing, but it's a long-term solution and will be around for a very long time. Making sure our cab department has everything it needs and then some to help accommodate the growing transportation need in this city. And finally, making sure that the landfill continues its growth. We approved recycling and in bigger toters at the blue bins, and also we're expanding the landfill. So there are no short-term things in government. They all have long-term items. So, you know, for the city of Wilmington, this is going to be around for a while. So we have to act quickly in the short term for the long term, if that makes any sense.
Thank you. Matt?
Short-term goals. Getting myself up to par with everything that is going on. I'm not going to lie and say I know everything that's going on right now. I would like to sit in. I've received the minutes from council meetings. I go over them every Thursday when I'm emailed them. I haven't had a chance to actually make it to any of them yet. So as far as a short-term goal, like Jonathan said, it's all about long-term goals. What I've wanted to talk about and get into as soon as I get in was, well, actually talking about how great the current administration, I feel, is doing, especially with the roads. I think John Stanford is doing a wonderful job at mayor and everyone on council as well.
Except for me.
Except for you, John. I'm taking your job, brother.
10 seconds.
The small businesses, I've brought it up a dozen times now. It's not just because I just opened my own. I feel like that is what is going to make this town grow. Again, with all the other committees in Wilmington that are trying to bring in new money and stuff like that, I want to watch people thrive. I want them to be their own bosses. I want them to be able to hire other people in Wilmington and give jobs to others in the community.
Thank you, Matt. John?
All my goals are short term. I don't have long term goals in my life. I got to get things done quickly. Number one, we're going to maintain our safety services. I'm so proud of our police and fire department. We have hired new firefighters, EMTs, and try to find that skill. If you have a kid that's getting ready to get out of high school, encourage them to go into firefighting, EMT. They are in such demand right now. We're hiring new police officers still. So it's so important that we maintain a safe city where everybody is comfortable. We're going to maintain our carryover. I'm so glad.
10 seconds.
I can't be 10 seconds left already. Now I made me forget what else I was going to talk about. I'll get it in closing.
We'll capture that 10 seconds later. Larry?
Short term stuff. I saw him out of Kroger's the other night. He made him take back a big bunch of green bananas. Yeah.
Reminder, you have 1 minute.
You know, I do want to. I want to start by, you know, I want to put the service back into public service. You know, I think we've lost something here. You know, I told you I want to improve the offices up there and the hours and the response from our employees. But I want to do things like maybe open the landfill on Saturday mornings for those that can't get out there, and they clean out that garage, and you can't put it out anymore because you got one little container, you know, so you got to live with it. I want to extend hours to the utility company. I want to extend the hours for the cab. I think that's pretty important. I do want to bring the police department back up to full force, maybe get a dog again. I believe that dog's really important. I know he's expensive, but he's so important with the drugs we have and the crime. We have this petty crime, and it's everywhere.
10 seconds.
Just the other day, the mayor's niece got broken into over in Denver Division. I mean, Denver Division, you know, that's the heaven in town, and we got crime over there now. So I want to get that department back up to snuff. And
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Larry.
you.
And we're going to start with John. This is a question for the mayor candidates. We'll start with John. Why did the billing from Odnr for Caesars Creek maintenance go unchallenged for so many years?
I don't have an answer to that, other than the fact that Brian, through his diligent efforts, and Congressman Stivers held the Army Corps of Engineers feet to the fire, and they finally released their documents on how they were coming up with our billing. And it was incredible what we saw. We were paying for the bird seed. I mean, what does that have to do with water? We were paying for the maintenance on the equestrian trail. And Rick Schaefer, our water superintendent, went through that document, and it was a 3-ring binder, probably that thick. And he went through it item by item, and he detailed what is fair and reasonable and what was questionable, and then what absolutely was out of line. And when our legal counsel saw that notebook, they were so impressed that he saved them hundreds of hours going through all those documents.
10 seconds.
And I don't know if you've hired a lawyer lately or not, but when you add hundreds of hours in legal fees, it's an incredible savings. And as I told you earlier, we're having a sit-down meeting, and we hope to get things resolved with them.
Thank you, John. Larry?
early on, when Mayor Evelyn put the deal together to get the water line and build the dam down at Caesars Creek, you know, we got it stuck to us because we were going to go in bed with Warren County and we were going to build a plant down there. And at the last minute, they left us at the altar. But Nick, knowing we needed water, because I remember the days when we had white pipes running from Wilmington all the way to Lake County to get water in this town. And so we've got an abundance of water. But they wrote a pretty tough contract. And I've seen all the mayors through the years meet with Odnr and try to get that cut. And we heard the same story. We have got this same contract with all the water development companies throughout the United States. And if we change it for you, we've got to change it for all the companies. And everybody's knocked their head. But just recently, the numbers have really shot up. You know, I don't know what your number was, John, but and way back when it was $20,000 and $30,000 a quarter. You know, now it's hundreds of thousands of dollars a quarter. And like you guys said, they bill for everything now. So
10 seconds.
it's a tough one. Thank you.
Thank you. This question's for all the candidates. We're going to be about 10 more minutes here, a few more questions, but this is pretty good question for all of you. We're going to start clear down at the end with Jonathan. What current issue in the city do you believe the elected leadership should make more of a priority? And what is your plan to accomplish this issue?
I would say right now, probably the most pressing thing is the water. The water issue that we are facing with Odnr is a pretty significant thing. And through the help of Congressman Stivers and others, we're accomplishing that. It's going to be slow going, but we're doing that. And also, I'm going to say, making sure the landfill is sustainable. And we're doing that by passing legislation for expansion and taking care of that. So it's going to take us a while, but it's going to happen. It is happening because of City Council working together and getting things done for the better of all. So that's where I think that's the best way I can answer that for right now.
Thank you, Jonathan. Matt?
Well, this is an easy one. The most pressing thing is the drug epidemic. I don't think there's a single person in here right now that has not been affected or lost someone because of what's going on all around the country for the most part. I think this comes in a couple different ways, and this actually what I was gonna backtrack to what I want to do when I first get in. I believe maybe working with the CCYC, Clinton County Youth Council, educating children. We can argue incarceration versus education until we're blue in the face. But that's for adults. Those are people that have already made that decision. And that's actually, past. That's not for City Council to determine. But what we can do is work with other organizations and start where it starts. Educate our children and let them know the evils, the dangers that are out there right now in our schools. And not just high school, not just college, middle school. This crap it's everywhere, and we need to do something about it. And getting the police force back up to where it needs to be, I believe that is a very large part of it right there, and policing our own.
Okay. John?
Actually, I'm going to agree with Matt. The drug epidemic is rampant in our community as it is statewide. And Governor DeWine, I think, is putting together an excellent program to address this. He is going to have drug education starting from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. So it's not, you're not going to wait till they're 10 or 12 years old to start the education. You're going to start it when they first start to school, and you're going to hammer away at it year after year after year. It's going to be a slow process. It's going to take a long time, but it's a step in the right direction. That also then solves so many of our little petty crimes. When you hear about the break-ins, it's usually drug-related. Somebody's trying to steal a CD out of your car so they can sell it for a couple bucks, or I don't buy CDs. What do they go for now, Matt? You don't buy CDs? I guess I really am an old guy, huh? But anyway, the most important thing is to maintain our safety services. That's the key to everything. And I mentioned this before. We're actively pursuing the hiring of firefighters and police officers.
Thank you, John. Larry?
I would agree with all these guys about the drugs and the crime. I can only say it's just a terrible time not to have a full police department. You know, I really want to stress a lot of economic development, both residential and commercial. You know, I travel these little towns all around. I go to the restaurants. It seems like everybody's moving forward, and Wilmington's backsliding. And I don't know why. You know, all we've got is pawn shops, dollar stores, and rent-to-owns. And now we're losing rent-to-owns. I mean, what's wrong with this town? I mean, we've got to get busy. We've got to get stuff for the youth of this community. They have nothing to do. And if we could come up with some things like that to keep them busy, maybe they'd stay off the drugs, and maybe they'd stay out of trouble. But we've really, you know, and I went by the empty shopping center the other night and said, wouldn't that be a nice skating rink or a big game room or even a dance hall for these young kids to go to? We got to start using our imagination and get busy and help the youth of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. That's going to end the question portion of this evening, but we are going to give 2 minutes of time instead of 1 minute because Jonathan can't talk 1 minute. So, just teasing Jonathan. And before we finish up, I want to applaud all four of these gentlemen for having. I know our politics may differ, but all four of these gentlemen have Wilmington's best interests in mind. So give them another big hand before they finish up. And we wish you all well in finishing up your campaign and in the election, okay? Jonathan, we'll start with you. You got 2 minutes to kind of summarize. Closing remarks, please.
Rutherford B. Hayes said in his inaugural address that local government is the superstructure of America. He's absolutely right. There's an invisible strength among us all in this room that we all want the same things. We all want our water to run, our toilets to flush, and our garbage to be picked up, a cab to come for us, and so on down the line. That's why I'm running. I'm running to make sure all of this happens and then some. That's what it's all about, is helping people. That's why I enjoy being out and about in the community. I enjoy helping people. They call me, I can get an answer to them because that's what I'm elected to do. And I believe in that. I believe in the strength of us all coming together and wanting all the same things. Everybody in this room has that. Abraham Lincoln said, "Why swap horses in the middle of a stream?" We're doing pretty good with this city. We've got a lot of good things going on right now, and we want to continue that work. I want to continue that work, and that's why I'm asking for your vote on May the 7th. Thank you.
Matt, 2 minutes.
Remember that a vote for Swindler is a vote for brevity. To finish up, I'd like to just say why this is important to me, because people have asked, not just that I want to do this, there is a reason that made me stand up in front of everyone and talk nervously and obviously be broadcasted. I've got 3 girls. 2 are about to start elementary school in August. I'd like to set a good example, and I want to help this town thrive and grow. I want to help make it someplace like me, my kids want to come back to after they leave and go to college, or maybe they go to college here at Southern State. I'm 5 minutes from my mother and father, and my sisters can throw a Frisbee into their backyard from where they live, and it's nice to see them every single day of the week. I'd like to think I'm going to do that with my girls. So making this town grow, giving people opportunities to want to come back and have jobs, keeping family ties close. I also want to make it a fun and safe environment to grow up in. I didn't get hit it, but I read yesterday about the new fitness center and recreation center that we're thinking of building. I think it's a great idea. We can talk more about that some other time. I believe I can relate and I can empathize with many of the problems of community members. After working at Dreher Physical Therapy for 6 years, I've had thousands of conversations, personal conversations with people about what they feel like the problems are or what's going on personally in their lives and what they would do if they had any sort of leadership in Wilmington, if they were a driving force and could make any sort of change. I've heard thousands of conversations. I've got perspective.
10 seconds.
I have investment in this community too. Seeing family, friends, and my children be successful, to owning my own business. Why wouldn't I want to be in city council? Why wouldn't I not want to give it my all? I was born here. I was raised here. I left for 4 years to protect it. I came home to make it great again. And I will eventually die here. And that's why I'm asking for your vote for First Ward. Thank you.
Thank you. I did give Matt about 5 extra seconds because Jonathan came in at 1:04 when I gave him 2. So, John?
Jonathan, I didn't know that you knew Rutherford Hayes. I think I put a kitchen in for Lemonade Lucy.
I know a lot of people.
First thing I want to touch on is the air park. You know there's over 1,200 employees out there at that air park? Dan Evers has just done an outstanding job. We are so blessed to have him. And when you see him, shake his hand and thank him for doing what he does. I also want to talk just a little bit about the streets. We had every street in this community graded. And we do what is the most economical thing. A street that is absolutely in the worst condition is the most expensive to repair. And if we go in and spend that money, we are neglecting streets that need a little bit of repair, and we greatly extend the life. And I'm going to use the example of Lowe's Drive. If you saw us put that coating on there, that street was still in pretty good shape. But by putting that coating on, and it wasn't chip and seal, no matter what you think. It's an epoxy coating, and it extends the life of that street by another 10 years. And we will attempt to do more of that with the streets that are in condition where we can do that. So there's a grading system, and then we make judgment calls. And if your street gets left behind, I'm sorry. We can't do everything at once. Hopefully the tax will pass. We'll have another cycle around the city, and we'll get a lot more done in 4th Ward. Matt, I'm sorry. You went first, but you got the short end of the stick, and we all know it. So hopefully we'll get back around to that. I also want to touch on the police investigation. I didn't mention this earlier, but this investigation is being done by BCI. It is not done we're not doing it in-house. We're not investigating ourselves. We have an outside entity that is doing it. And it has taken far and away longer than we expected it to. But I have no authority over them. Oh, now, let me correct something. I didn't ask BCI to do this. That's up to the prosecuting attorney to do that, which Rick graciously did. So when the investigation is done, we're going to lay it all out in the open and everybody knows what's going on. I ask for your vote on May 7th.
Thank you. Larry?
As you can see, there are a lot of problems and issues that need to be addressed, and no one person will fix all of these. What I want to close with today is, what will I do for you as your mayor? Through the many years I served with the city, I met with many of you and your problems. I worked with you trying to find answers for your particular situation. But we always did it within the letter of the law. A lot of times we had positive results, but sometimes we just couldn't get there. But I always treated you with respect, and I think I want to continue that service. If you take the time to make the phone call to City Hall, I want it answered by a real person and not an answering machine. If you build up enough courage and make that drive to City Hall, I want you to walk through the doors downstairs and be able to walk through the doors upstairs in my office and meet with me or my staff. I'll always have an open door policy. I learned a long time ago, no problem is too small. When that person goes to the effort to come to City Hall, their problem is the most important thing in their life at that time. And trust me, I've seen it many times. They shall be treated with respect and sincerity. And as we do our problem solving, we may look at a couple of options, but always with the constraints of the law, because at the end of the day, it's always easier to defend your actions if you're on the right side of the law. There's just way too much selective enforcement going on. Remember, when you govern by emotion rather than the rule of law, you have no government. I really want to stress and put the effort into economic development, various eateries and other commercial growth as necessary to energize the community. Residential construction has stalled as no new building lots have been created in the last 3 years. Creation of single-family lots as well as condominium units are a must to accommodate those moving to the area with new jobs and for those who live in the city wishing to upgrade. I want to put service back into public service. A fair day's pay for a fair day's work, and I want all employees to truly buy into this demand. I want employees speaking to the administration again. I want supervisors speaking to the administration again. And I want the citizens
10 seconds.
speaking to the administration. Hopefully, with all this newfound conversation, we can all get busy in making Wilmington one of the best little cities to live in again. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Folks, as we wrap up, again, let's give all four candidates a big round of applause. And I know they all have the city in their best interests, so good luck to all of you guys. A couple reminders, and I do apologize we didn't get through all the questions. I know some of you had some questions, and I apologize for that. We went as far as we could into the night. One reminder, April 9th, early voting starts, and the Board of Elections is going to be out in the annex on Nelson Avenue, and you're going to have an open house for that, you say? Cutting the ribbon that morning. So if you want to go out and early vote, April 9th, out at the annex out on Nelson Avenue. So we appreciate you all coming and spending your evening with us, and I'm sure everybody's going to be running to Frisch's, and I know I am. So, but thank you. Have a good evening.
And Billy, thank you